Good morning. Tuesday, on the way to work. Going to talk today about something that I am pretty sure is going to offend someone. So, if you're easily offended, maybe skip today. Today's topic, one of the most overused phrases in all of D&D. It's what my character would do. Now, most people hear this and immediately think of all of the horrific players they've had over the years who have said it. And yes, I'll say it. It very often gets used by trolls. People troll your D&D game with oh well, it's what my character would do, with a grin and a shrug as an excuse to do something stupid. It happens more often than any of us would like. But that's not the only time that phrase is used. You can almost always tell the two types apart, though. You have the troll player who has maybe written 2 lines of background for his character, and none of it makes any sense. It very likely references a video game of some kind, because that way they don't have to have an original thought. And they will, with a smile or a grin or a laugh, kind of shrug their shoulders and say, well, it's what my character would do. And then laugh about it as they sell out the party, or as they steal from the king that's going to get the party killed, whatever that might be. Yeah, you've got that kind. You also, though, have the rare occasion of a player who has actually written a proper background for his character, who has imbued his character with motivations and ideals, and who has made the character more than just a puppet of themselves. They have put some kind of emotional significance into the character. And you can almost always tell the difference, because when that player says it's what my character would do, it's usually accompanied by some form of an apology. Look, I'm really sorry about this, but it's what my character would do. And that usually means that that player has sat there and has gone through all of the options that he can think of, and he cannot find an in-character justification to not do what he's about to do. And when that is the case, I feel that as a gaming group, we should respect that. Because they are being true to the roleplay. They are being true to the scenario. I understand that there is some measure of tweaking that has to happen in order to maintain party cohesion at some point. I get that. But not all people are going to get along at all times. And sometimes conflict within a party, as long as it stays in character, and as long as it doesn't go too far, adds depth and meaning to a game. Now, that's where I'm going to move into something that is a bit of a touchy subject, because I'm going to talk about a character that I'm playing right now, who is, and I will flat out say, a very difficult character. A bit of background: I'm playing in a game The DM set it up for us. The history of the world is that in the past, the giants and the dragons ruled the world. They had their slave races. They warred against each other. That was the world. If you weren't a dragon or a giant, you were a slave. And through a series of events, there are now no more dragons and no more giants. And the world is dealing with that, and has been for a couple generations. That was kind of the background that we were given on the world. And I looked at that and I thought, this really, to me, is a great situation to explore something that we don't often get a safe place to explore. And that's part of what, to me, D&D should be. D&D should be about exploring things in a game that it's not always politically correct or morally correct to explore in real life. So I built a character for this game, and I made him a Dragonborn. He is born of the dragons. He knows the history of the dragons ruling the world. And in his view, because you see, when the dragons ruled the world, the Dragonborn were kind of favored slaves. They were the advisors that still got to wear rich clothing and stand at the side of their master as their master was, killing everyone else. So, from what he's heard, the Dragonborn had it fairly good in this society, and it was a very orderly society. So, I built a character who actually wishes for the return to slavery. He believes that the world was genuinely better off with the dragons ruling it. And that the only reason that the dragons ruling the world was not a utopian society is that the giants messed it up. And that is his core motivation. He genuinely feels the world was better off under the claws of the giants. They are older, they are wiser, they are more powerful, they know better than us. And now that they're gone, we're all just messing it up. Now, he also holds an ambition to evolve himself from Dragonborn into dragon to restart the lineage. That is something that is part of the homebrew racial class that the DM has allowed, and it is basically part of, as he levels up, he will gain the ability to become a dragon. He considers himself lawful good, and this is where alignment gets a bit tricky, because his definition of law is obedience to the dragons, and his definition of good is an orderly world where everyone knows their place. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to be on top on this world. That's why he's not lawful evil. If he was planning to conquer the world and enslave it to himself and reinforce that law that way, that would be lawful evil. Flat out. But he believes that the world was better under the dragons. And So he wants to return the world to Under the Dragons. Now, unfortunately, he's looking around and not seeing any other Dragonborn who are willing to step up. And so he feels that it is his duty that if no one else will, he has to. Now, that means that he is doing some things that very nearly compromise him. But he's doing it from a place of wanting to make things better for everyone. In his mind. Most everyone else does not agree that the world was better under the dragons. But he believes they're lesser races. They're wrong. In his mindset, the order of things goes the dragons, the Dragonborn, everyone else. And that's where the difficult part comes in, because if you've listened to anything I've said there, basically what I'm describing is a racist. Or, to use a common term in today's world, you have a white supremacist. Someone who believes that their people are better than everyone else. Now, I don't consider myself a racist or a white supremacist, but I come from a culture where a lot of people are considered those things. I come from a culture where there is still a black side of town and a white side of town. And it shouldn't be that way. I get that. But what better way to explore those hard things than in the medium of D&D? Because if you try to play a character that believes differently than you do, you then have to think about things from their perspective instead of your perspective in order to make sense of them. Now, this goes back to that old phrase of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. This is not what I think. This is what he thinks. If I can logically understand why he thinks that, then I can understand his beliefs. This goes for anything. The next time you're making a D&D character, make a character that has a core belief that you don't agree with, and then actively try to roleplay it out. If you can, then you'll have a better understanding of that person that embodies that belief. If you can't, then either you're not trying hard enough, or perhaps that belief really is as invalid as you believe it is. But you have to genuinely make a concerted effort to logically understand it. Otherwise, the exercise is null and void. So yeah, I mean, he automatically distrusts any giant. There are no giants, I've said that, but any half giants, any ogres, any of the giant blooded races are immediately to him, in his mind, the enemy. Because they are the ones that ruined the dragon's attempt to make a perfect world. Now, things in game are happening to challenge that, which is great. I'm happy about it. That's kind of the idea, is to start a character based on a supposition and then either reinforce or alter that supposition based on outside events. So he has recently discovered that things might not have been as clear-cut between the dragons and the giants. They were at war, but there's now talk about a dragon and a giant who fell in love. A very kind of Romeo and Juliet type story. And that challenges his view. Because in his mind, the dragons are wise and all-knowing. So if one of the dragons fell in love with a giant, then how can the giants be pure evil? And then that's been backed up with the character having lost an item and then having a half-giant return that item and then refuse any reward because he's just doing the right thing. And that happened just one game session after the Church of Bahamut had done something which really offended and upset the characters. So he's starting to see that a lot of the Dragonborn, even the priests of the dragon, do not embody the ideals that he looks for. And he's starting to see that some giants do embody some of those ideals. And he's still a bit in denial at this point. At this point, he's trying to kind of say, well, they've been taught wrong because the dragons aren't here to show them better. That's got to be the problem. Yeah, the Dragonborn are they're making mistakes because they should have leadership and they don't. And the giants, well, the same thing kind of. Without their evil overlords here to tell them how to be, some of them are actually becoming better people. But that's only happening because the giants are gone. Now, as a player, no, that's not the case. I know that. But as a character, based on the mindset he has had in the past, that is his reaching to try and continue to justify his own beliefs in the face of evidence that does not support them. Now, over the course of the game, that could change further. But right now, that's the situation he's in. He has a set of beliefs, the evidence doesn't back them, so he's trying to justify. Yeah. Now, I'm just getting off the motorway to turn into my office. So, this video has been a bit longer than I thought it would today. It's been an interesting topic. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Have a great day.